Hi, friends, and welcome back. So, today I'm going to be talking about the concept of embodiment, and we're going to talk about what that means and why it's important. And I'm going to give you some tips towards the end of the video that will help you kind of put together a little bit of a game plan, if you will, so that you can begin to use this extremely valuable concept in your life. So, the term embodiment means to incorporate, to become, to demonstrate, to assume the qualities of. When I'm speaking about embodiment, I'm talking about being able to move through life as a representative of certain qualities. That is what I mean by this concept of embodiment. And then you'll think, well, why is that important? We're going to talk about that in just a second. So, if you're not familiar with Neville Goddard, I consider him the godfather of manifestation because what he did was, there were a lot of people talking about manifestation, and I hope that you are familiar with that concept and I'm not kind of getting ahead of you. If you're not familiar with manifestation, you can go to my podcast at tanyalampley.com/podcast and kind of scroll through, and I have several episodes where I talk about manifestation. So you want to definitely get familiar with manifestation because it's just going to help you live life better. And that's what I'm here for. I'm here to try to give you tips, try to give you skills, try to give you a toolbox so that you can go from living life in the doldrums to actually being satisfied, if not completely overjoyed and happy with your life experience. And being able to manifest is a very important part of the life process. And when I say manifest, I mean being able to move in abundance, being able to have the things that you want, the things that will bring comfort and joy to your life. And the universe is all about that for us. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in a second. Let me talk about embodiment and why that is important for manifestation. So, many of us have gone through life and we have completely separated from the truth of who we actually are. There are certain qualities that are germane to us as human beings. There are certain qualities that we were assigned before we came into these physical bodies that we were supposed to be demonstrating in the earth. That's the beauty of the universe, the beauty of God, the beauty of the Creator is that we are all individuals and that we all have our own unique set of principles and values and personality traits and characteristics. And all those things add up to make us who we are. And we are uniquely different, and that should have been celebrated. But what happened in the 3D realm that we were born in, we were all kind of conditioned to behave a certain way, to be like other people. I remember when I was a young woman and going to college or about to graduate from college, everybody wanted to get a business degree or be a lawyer. People weren't thinking about what their skills were, what their desires, what their likes were, what their natural inclinations were. People were just thinking about getting the money. So we've lived in a society that has told us that a woman does these things or a woman acts a certain way. She must have a child. She must get married. So here we are as human beings having squashed or quelled our unique thumbprint or blueprint in sake of what society said that we should be. Okay. So when I'm thinking about and talking about this concept of embodiment, what I'm talking about is going back and reclaiming your authentic self, reclaiming who you are, remembering the traits that you were assigned at birth, and being able to move throughout your life as a representative of those qualities fully and completely. Well, why do we want to do that? because it's going to feel phenomenal. When you're trying to be someone else, when you're walking through life, working a job that's not for you, or living in a city that's not for you, or married to a person that's not for you, it feels heavy. It feels off. It feels burdensome. It can cause depression. We wonder why the United States has such high rates of suicide, depression. Everybody's on Xanax or some other anti-anxiety medication. I mean, it's epidemic. And one of the reasons why is because we're not living fully and completely as who God intended us to be. So, when you think about the term of embodiment and how it relates to manifestation, when you are living life out as your actual complete self, you're just going to feel amazing. You're not going to be burdened. You're not going to be bogged down by life. You know, when you're not carrying things that don't belong to you, when you have created your life so that it lines up with who you are at your true and authentic self, you're going to feel amazing. You're going to be able to accomplish things in life. You're going to be able to experience joy and happiness and peace. It's just going to feel like you've come home. That's the only way that I can describe it. And so, manifesting that life is directly tied to embodiment, because when you embody who you actually truly are, the universe is going to start manifesting the things that are uniquely for you. That is how they tie together. To the extent that you start embodying the qualities, the traits of the person that you want to become, the universe is going to say, all right, let's play, let's go. It's going to meet you on the path and start revealing to you the things that you need to start living out, to start manifesting, to start creating the life that you were intended to live the whole time. So let me recap a little bit, because that was a lot. We're talking about this term of embodiment, and we're talking about how it relates to manifestation. So everybody's into manifestation. Everybody wants to manifest. And when I think of manifestation, what I really think of is being able to move in abundance and to be able to create a life that is satisfying to you. So I'm never a person that talks about manifestation for the sake of just having a bunch of stuff, a bunch of junk, a bunch of cars or houses, or definitely not being able to manifest from a standpoint of, if I have these things and people are going to think these kinds of things about me. That is not manifestation. Some people do that, but you're never going to have peace with that kind of manifestation. And I'm the kind of a person, I really believe in life being full and complete no matter what you have. You can find peace in one room. You can find peace with a car that barely runs. So when I think of manifestation, I think of manifestation in terms of creating a life that is 100% satisfactory to you, that embodies who you are. There's that word again. Embodies who you are totally and completely and perfectly. Not everybody wants Maseratis and Bentleys. Some people, their heart's desire would be to have a VW Bug or a Prius. So there's no right or wrong here. What we're after is trying to get to who you are at your core, who is authentically you, before the world told us that you got to start manifesting Bentleys and Mercedes and BMWs and all those kinds of things in order for you to find your value and your worthiness. That's not manifestation. That's something different. That's never going to lead to peace. That's never going to lead to wholeness. So, when I'm thinking of manifestation, I'm thinking of you manifesting the things that you need on your journey so that you can live a life that is pleasing to you, that is satisfactory, that is productive, that feels like wholeness, that feels like joy, that feels like peace, that feels like love, that you are able to be your full and complete self so that you show up in the world and you're able to serve and you're able to be of value. When I think of manifestation, that is the connotation that I apply to manifestation, and that is going to be houses and cars for a lot of people. But for some people, it's just a small little peaceful place where they can build a little fire, where they don't have to worry about the maintenance on a very large home and calling contractors, where they don't have to constantly have their car in the repair shop and getting those kinds of bills. Because when you have expensive cars, those bills are not cheap. Everybody doesn't want that. And so, again, manifestation is your life unfolding the way that God intended for it to unfold, because that's where your peace is, that's where your joy is. And being able to step out of this notion that manifestation means material wealth, material things. For some people, it's definitely going to. I believe that it means that for a lot more people. But again, everybody doesn't want that. And we're trying to get back to what is uniquely the call and the blueprint for our own life experience. All right. So I've talked about embodiment and what that means, being able to assume qualities. And I've talked about manifestation and what that means, being able to materialize the things that you need to live your own life as well as you can live it. And I also talked about authenticity. I threw that in there. That wasn't a part of the intro. But all of this, a great life, embodiment, manifestation, it all is kind of undergirded, or it all rests on the foundation of authenticity, of you finding your life and living it fully and completely and well. Okay, so let's move on with this concept of embodiment. Neville Goddard, and I talked about him at the beginning, said that in order to manifest, you have to assume the wish fulfilled. And a lot of people talk about manifestation, but they're not giving people this crucial piece. This is everything. When you think about that concept of embodiment, that lines up with what Neville Goddard is speaking about. He's talking about assuming the wish fulfilled. Well, to assume the wish fulfilled, you have to embody certain qualities. Getting back to who you are at your core, getting back to knowing who you are, what you value, what characteristics are uniquely yours. When you do that and you begin to embody those things, manifestation becomes a natural byproduct of that. Now, some people teach manifestation from the terms of, if you want wealth, you have to assume the persona or the actions or the mindset of someone who is wealthy. And that's 100% true. The question that you also have to ask is, was wealthy intended for you in this lifetime? Many of us didn't come here to be wealthy. A lot of us did. Some of us did, but not everybody. So you have to ask yourself, what was intended for me? Now, if you, and I'm going to give you an exercise to do in a minute. If you're constantly thinking about wealth, if you're constantly wanting things, if you're constantly desiring things, that's sometimes a sign that wealth is something that you are able to fulfill in this lifetime. But you have to be careful, because you may be a person that's called to serve. You may be a great teacher. You may be, I don't know, you may be a nurse, someone that really has been gifted with the qualities of being able to help people when they are in some sort of crisis or health crisis. And so when you think about wealth like that, they kind of may not link up together. So again, I think it's so important that you go back and figure out who you are, because if you're a nurse and you have been called to do that as your life's work, and you're sitting somewhere surrounded by Mercedes Benzes and BMWs and a big house, you're probably still not going to be happy. So I say let go of those kinds of things, because those kinds of notions have been implanted into our subconscious by this 3D world that we were born into. But you can actually live a great life and not be wealthy. You can work a 9 to 5 job and you can love your job and you can build a great life as long as your bills are paid, as long as you have a decent car that runs. Wealth may not be in your orbit in this lifetime. So I can't stress that enough. I cannot stress that there is a need to get away from this notion of everybody needs to be wealthy. But if wealth is for you, then you want to make sure that you do that in this lifetime. Okay. So I fleshed that out, that be careful when you think of manifestation that you're not thinking in terms of, oh, I need to get rich. But if that's for you, that is for you in this lifetime. So let's talk about this exercise that I think is very important for us to do, each and every one of us. We need to go back and claim who we are. And I've done this work and I give this work to clients, and it is transformative, because once you claim it, then the universe is now going to meet you on the path, especially if you start learning how to maintain your frequency. And I talk a lot about that on my podcast. Again, TanyaLampy.com/podcast. Or if you just go to TanyaLampy.com and look at the tabs, you'll see a tab at the top of the page for podcasts. Click on that, because I do talk about frequency and why frequency is important and how to maintain your frequency. Okay. So once you start getting back to your true self, the universe is going to meet you on the path and it's going to start helping you with this concept of manifesting the things that you need to live your life well. Period. Point blank. End of story. That is what manifestation is for. Manifestation is not for everybody to get money and get cars and get houses and get all of that. It's for you to start living out your unique blueprint in this lifetime. And when you start living out your unique blueprint in this lifetime, you're going to find that that's where your happiness is. And somebody couldn't show up and say, I'll trade you this life for the life of a Hollywood actor. You would probably say, no, I don't even want the drama of that. I don't even want the drama of not being able to go into Starbucks and be hunted down by paparazzi. I'm happy right here where I am, because I'm living my life and I am living out my own blueprint. And when you do that, you're just going to find joy, peace, happiness. It's going to just start flooding into your life experience. Okay. So, in your quiet time, if you journal, this is a great activity to do for journaling. But if you don't journal, just a regular old piece of paper will do. I want you to get quiet for a minute. And getting quiet is so important because it really does allow your vibration to raise. And when your vibration raises, you can actually connect with divinity. So you're going to have support. You're going to have access to more information than you would normally have access to if you try to do this in a very hurried way, or when your spirit is kind of loud. It's just not going to work as effectively. So you want to get quiet. You want to sit down. You want to let your brain settle. You want to meditate for a little bit if you can, or say a prayer, whatever you need to do to get yourself quiet internally and aligned with your true self and with your inner being. And once you've done that, I want you to think of the qualities that you wish to embody. And Here's the caveat with this piece of the exercise. When you think of the qualities that you want to embody, is so important that you drown out the world's voice that has told us, oh, I want to be beautiful, I want to be thin, or I want to be rich. You want to toss that to the side. What you're looking for is your own clarion call. You're looking for your soul's voice. You want to allow your inner being, your higher mind to speak to you from a very true and authentic place, right? So you want to listen for the call of your own voice. What are the qualities that you want to embody? Because the qualities that you want to embody, if you do this exercise right, if you listen for the internal voice, that is who you truly are. That is the bedrock of authenticity, is being able to get back to that person. So if you can drown out the voice of the world that tells us all, oh, you need to be a doctor. Oh, you need to be a lawyer. Oh, you need to be rich. Oh, you need to be beautiful. Oh, you need to be thin. If you can drown out all of that and just get to your core, what are the principles that you want to embody? Who are you at the core? What words come to mind? Intelligence, kindness, humanitarian, service oriented, helpful, fun. You know, who are you at your core? What are those terms? And so I would say write down around 5 of those. Sometimes if the list starts getting too long, it's a little more difficult to remember them when you're flowing throughout your day. But if you can get to 4 or 5 qualities that are unique to you, we're talking about the things that make you who you are. This is how you want to show up in the world every day. As you're doing that, as you write down these qualities, you're getting back to your true self. And as you get back to your true self, you're going to feel good about your life experience. And as you start to feel good about your life experience, manifestation is a direct byproduct of that. One, because your frequency just is just going to raise when you feel good. But two, the universe is going to kind of slide itself right alongside you and ride with you along the rest of your journey now that you have committed to becoming fully and completely who you are. Okay? So do that exercise. Write down those principles. Who are you at your core? Who do you want to embody? And just make sure that you're listening for your intuition, for your higher mind, for your soul, whatever that internal voice of yours is that speaks to you, whatever you call that, make sure that it's coming from an authentic place. So I want to be a person that embodies peace. I want to be a person that embodies joy. What are those things to you? All right, write those down. And then you want to put those where you can see them on a note on your phone, hang them up on your bathroom mirror, put them on your refrigerator. They are a reminder of you to get back to who you know yourself to be at your core. And so, as you start to embody those qualities, as you start to move through life from this standpoint of, I embody power, or just whatever those words are for you. And if you have more than 5, that's fine. 5 gets a little bit trickier, or 6 gets a little bit trickier. When you start getting, the list gets too long, I think it's just kind of hard. But if you can manage it, write them all down. If they are all unique to you, write them all down and begin to embody all of those traits. You may want to start with 5 and then say, after I do these 5, I'll add more. Whatever works for you. The point of this is, as Neville Goddard said, to assume the wish fulfilled. You want to embody, you want to become the traits of the person that you truly want to be. And as you do that, manifestation is going to be a direct byproduct of that. So when you sit down to do this exercise, This is really important. You want to start to feel what that person feels like. You want to think about those traits that you've written down, the person that is embodying those traits. You want to think about that person. How do they feel? What do they think about? How do they act in certain situations? You want to begin to assume the wish fulfilled, right? And so see yourself in the kind of house that you want to live in, or maybe even the kind of car that you want to drive, the one that is authentic to you, right? Not the one that the world has told us that we need to have to be somebody. Not that. The older I get, I'm like, I think I want a Prius or some, if those are even still around. I love nice things, but sometimes simplicity is just better. So I want you to start thinking in terms of that, thinking in terms of who that person is and what they embody. And as you go throughout your day, you're wearing that, you're embodying that, right? Those traits should have already been unique to you, but you are going to wear those traits. You're going to become that person. You're going to assume that persona, knowing that's who you really are, right? And so as you do that, you go back and you rewire your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind responds to our beliefs. It's shaped by feeling, by emotion. So as you feel this person, it may feel new to you in the beginning, but that's who you really are. But as you begin to assume these qualities and assume these traits, you begin to go back and rewire your subconscious mind. And as you rewire your subconscious mind, you become the new person. As Neville Goddard said, you are assuming the wish fulfilled. Become the person that you wish to be. And if you do that, the universe is going to line up with you and start feeding you ideas, people, places to go, coincidences. Man, the amount of coincidences that start to show up in people's lives when you start doing this work, it's unbelievable. I've seen it in my own life. I've seen it in the lives of my clients, people that they intersected with that they never thought they would intersect with. They gave them the exact missing piece to what they needed to move forward on their journey. So this is good work. This is beautiful work. Authenticity is the foundation of it. Go back, read over those words, begin to embody those words as you move throughout life, as you're talking to people, as you find yourself in certain circumstances. Become that person, become who you truly are. And as you do that, manifestation is going to come.